Welcome to episode number 183. Are you fucktose intolerant? This is the podcast Wide Open Spaces with Elise, the fiery redhead, where we're going to get raw, edgy, and not so politically correct. You can listen to this podcast anywhere you love listening to your favorite podcast. Go to wideopenspaceswithelise.com. Elise is spelled I-L-I-S-E. Now let's listen and evolve together. Inhale, exhale, and let that fucking shit go. Welcome to the podcast today, where we're a little raw, a little edgy, and a little not so politically correct. First, I want to give a shout out to 4 countries that have been in my top listening ship for the past, 2 weeks. About 88 countries listen to this podcast, but number 1 was Mexico. Number 2 was Colombia, 3 Australia, and number 4 the Philippines. So I want to thank you to all those listeners out there, especially Mexico, who is just attached to us here at the United States. And I am very appreciative for you listening to me here at Wide Open Spaces with Elise. And to all my other listeners, I hope that what we talk about resonates with you. Remember, it may not be specifically what you're going through, but you can take what I talk about and flip it around a little bit and mold it and use it to help you in your everyday life. I worked in mental health for years. This podcast, my first 5 seasons, was all about mental health, and it still is. But the world is blowing up and things are going crazy. And I actually was just listening to Don Lemon before I did this podcast. He was live on his podcast. And he, as we all know, was fired from CNN, took time off, has his own podcast, book, etc., etc. And his goal was to not talk about politics on his podcast. But he said that he knew as soon as the current occupant of the White House was elected, he'd have no choice. And I kind of feel the same way. And it was ironic that I literally just listened to him say that. Now, I don't always agree with him and what he says, but isn't that what life's about? We're not supposed to always agree. But as a person who has worked in mental health for years, and in the podcast, I talk about my own struggles and hopefully that you can relate and give you coping mechanisms that you can use. Like Don Lemon said, we can't avoid the obvious. Fucking politics is insane, and it is weaving itself throughout everyone's lives. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It's affecting you. You may think it's affecting you in a positive way. Maybe not affecting you so much, or maybe you're really being impacted in a negative way. I will say there is not one place that I go, and I'm not over exaggerating. Not one place I go that I only overhear a conversation about politics, where I don't have someone initiate a conversation about politics or crack a joke about politics. If you visited another country besides the United States of America, I guarantee, I know from my own personal experience, and this goes back years since the current occupant was in his first seat in the White House. We went to other countries. They all made fun of the United States. They all thought we were a joke back then. Well, I haven't gone since. I will be, and it'll be interesting to see what the take is. And I'm talking like I'm on a tour bus with 100 other people, and the tour guide is cracking the joke. In Ireland, cracking the joke. Billboards making jokes about the United States. So That was his first term. We're now in his second term. I only know what I see through TikTok, through the news. I try to be somebody who listens to all different aspects to get perspectives. Honestly, I don't even know where I stand. I don't even identify with any political party at this moment. I feel somewhat lost. And if you're listening to me in another country, I don't know how you feel about your own personal governments. Maybe you live under a dictatorship. Maybe it's oppressive. Maybe you live freely and happily. I don't know. But what I do know is that I grew up one way and I stood for those beliefs and I supported the candidates that I was behind. And somehow I'm lost in this shuffle. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I say maybe I'm an independent, but I don't know what the fuck that means right now. I just know that as a person who, excuse me, works in mental health, that works with people and their emotions and their feelings and their everyday struggles, that they feel lost too. Maybe they wished they voted for the person who is currently in the White House. Maybe they wish they could take their vote back. Maybe they didn't vote and wished they did vote. But we have what we have. And I've always been a firm believer that as a United States citizen, I must support whoever is in office. It's become extremely difficult in the past, for 8.5 years. It's become extremely difficult where I don't know where I identify. And so this is where the term fucktose intolerance comes into play. It doesn't necessarily have to deal with politics. You can be fucktose intolerant in any aspects of your life. Why do I bring up politics? Because we can't avoid it. And I try to, but I'm having fun on TikTok and I'm watching I'm a love the designer purse kind of girl, and I love watching them in China selling their purses on TikTok. It's kind of like a relaxation thing. Never purchased anything, but I like watching it. Or I like watching somebody dancing to Lady Gaga's new song from her Mayhem album, Abracadabra. And then all of a sudden, the politics, I scroll, and they fucking enter the feed. And so I know I'm not alone. I know it happens to you too. You may see things you like, you may see things you hate. For me, when I see things and it's struck a chord with me, I go and research it first. And I think you should do that too, because there is a lot of propaganda out there on both sides of the fence, in the middle too, on the outskirts. There's propaganda. There's false information. I have fallen into it myself. And my daughters who are in their 20s are like, Ma, you got to research it first before you fully believe it. And I think you all need to do that, because if you take it for face value and you get sucked into falsehoods, you're not living in true reality. You're not living with facts. And that's where we have to begin, with finding out if you are fucktose intolerant. So let me read you the definition, because you might be scratching your head. Did she make up this thing, this intolerance herself? Because she likes to say the word fuck. No, this is actually a word, 2 words that have a definition to them. I pulled the definition off the internet, and let me read it to you. Fucktose intolerant is a humorous, non-medical term that describes someone who finds it difficult to tolerate nonsense, BS, or general insidiousness, especially in the morning before coffee. So, especially in the morning before coffee, because why? Well, you're a little more irritable when you first wake up. You're groggy. You need that first cup of coffee, the caffeine to get you going, to think more clearly, to be productive. So it's when you're a little bit more, maybe that raw and edgy. And if someone were to push your buttons, you might fly off the handle a little bit more. And so it's basically not wanting to tolerate nonsense, BS, or just general bullshit. And it doesn't only happen in the morning, because throughout your day, throughout your week, you are in the face. There's BS in your face. There's nonsense. There's things you just cannot tolerate. Not just about politics, but I can't avoid the politics. I have done that so much throughout my podcast, throughout the other 5 seasons. But in season 6, I can't. And you're going to hear it intertwined as long as the world continues. Because I would be lackadaisical. I would be inept as someone that you take as authority, who has wisdom and knowledge, to totally avoid that topic when we're talking about our mental health. And so fucktose intolerance is on the rise. Like I said, my morning scroll through TikTok, the BS is in my face. And it's very hard to separate yourself from it in your average, everyday lives. I went to a Shiva last night. Shiva, if you don't know what that is when somebody who's Jewish has passed away. After the funeral, for some nights, people go and visit the family, and that's what it's called. I know other religions, they do the same thing, but that's what it's called. 2 different people didn't know each other, sitting in 2 separate areas. Politics. Here you are visiting, supporting, and I'm not putting them down. I'm trying to show you that, I guess what I'm trying to do is validate to you why I'm bringing this topic into my podcast. And I hope in the process I don't lose listeners, because I know wherever you are in the world, you experience politics. It may not be the United States affecting you, but it will be your own government affecting you, depending on where you live and what country you live in. And those affect our lifestyle, our quality of life. So how do we deal with this fucktose intolerance, with the people in our lives that are just full of bullshit, separate from politics? Now let's put that on a shelf for a minute. I know, as sure as I'm sitting here right now, that you have at least one person in your life that annoys the fucking shit out of you. Maybe they're a family member and you just can't get rid of them. Maybe there's somebody who's in your friend group and you love the rest of your friend group, but you don't love them. Maybe you live in a dormitory in college and you have to deal with those people. Maybe it's your roommate, somebody you didn't know that you roomed with randomly. You got to put up with their BS. Do you? Do you really have to put up with it? That's the question. That intolerance to people who are negative, who are constantly trying to rile you up. So what's the cure for being and feeling fucktose intolerant to people? It's a good question. And it's a new term to most of you, I'm sure. And so now I want you to start to think about it. Think about those people, those situations those insidious things that just kind of make your skin crawl that you experience. Could be things, it could be situations, it could be people that you're intolerant to. I think intolerance, for me, when I say the word, sends a message to my brain that I can't just ignore this. I have to learn how to deal, cope, or move away from. Those are the options that I give myself: to deal with it, to cope with it, or to move away from it. And I'm not saying any three are healthier than the other. I think it depends on what it is, what the relation is, why it's happening. We have to be insightful. We do have to try to understand people and their situations that they're going through. Not if they're disgusting back to you. We don't have to take that from anybody. And I will never. Anybody who is disgusting to me, bye-bye. I got no freaking problem kicking you in the ass out my front door and never seeing you again. You can ask some family members that I have in my life. I have done that because I don't believe that just because you're blood means I need to keep you in my life if you're toxic to me, if you did me wrong, if you disrespected me. And so when I saw this term, fucktose intolerant, it kind of, I don't know, caught me in my gut just reading it and going, that's interesting. I want to dive into this a little bit more. And now I really have started to take on this statement of being this intolerant for things because the world is in such disarray. When the world is in disarray, when your environment is in disarray, it is very hard for an individual to cope, to focus, to be productive, to get things done, to accomplish, because things are in disarray. I'm a firm believer that if your home is in disarray, your brain is in disarray. You can't have a dirty, messy home and be a productive, functioning person. Your home represents the disorganization that's going on in your brain, the lack of focus, the lack of pulling it together. So if this is hitting you right now, if you're that person, here's your first step on how to deal with people and your life better. To be less fucktose intolerant. To be less intolerant in your situation means starting with your immediate environment. I don't mean if you got a few things stacked up around you. I mean dirty. I mean things piled around that maybe the only thing that doesn't have stuff on it's your couch. I mean, I've walked into people's homes where their kitchen tables are piled with papers. I mean, I don't put them down, but as I look around and I see the rest kind of goes with those papers on the table. And then knowing that person, it all makes sense. You may be shaking your head no right now if you're this person with this disorganization around you. And that's okay. And I hate to say this, but that's denial. You need to dig deep. You need to look at your environment. That is your first step. I talked about on my last podcast how if you have dinner the night before, and this was talking about stress and stuff, when you have dinner the night before and you don't clean the dishes and you leave them in the sink, and then you come home the next day from a really awful day at work, stressed out, now you got dirty dishes in the sink. You already walked into your home and there's stress. You can't even leave it at the door. If you just would have taken those 5 minutes the night before, cleaned the dishes, well, that would have been one less stressor that would have happened when you walked through the door after a hard day of work. I know I'm hitting home. I repeated that scenario because it goes with this podcast as well. Because I know who I'm talking to. You know I'm talking to you if you are this person. So you must start with your own personal environment. And once you organize that, and I guarantee you will feel like you have purged a whole bunch of crap in your inner sanctum. Get rid of stuff. Donate it. I'm in that process. I'm on the GLP-1 and I'm losing weight, and God, I've been fighting weight my whole life. And it used to be like, oh, when I was on a diet, when I would lose weight, I put the bigger stuff further in the closet, but I'm going to keep it because, well, I'll be fat again someday. Well, guess what? I'm not doing that this time. All that stuff that I just tried on that doesn't fit, bye-bye, because it's cluttering my closet. And every time I go in my closet, I'm stressed out trying to find something to wear. Unnecessary stress. So you start with your environment. Once you've got that under control, well, we know the minute you step out your door, the world is in fucking whirlwind. The turmoil, it is affecting people. So many people have just lost their jobs unexpectedly who worked for the government. Their heads are spinning. I just talked to someone recently who works in a leasing office as an apartment. And he told me how sad it is that these people are coming to him, have, year-long leases, 14-month leases, whatever, and they need to get out of it. They just were let go unexpectedly. I don't care what the reasons were. Well, I do, but I'm not going to get into that here, that bullshit. But I'm worried about the person who now doesn't know what to do, can't pay for a roof over their head, doesn't, maybe young and starting out and doesn't have a savings that they can live off of. Or if you do, that savings was being saved for something else, and now you have to draw from it just to put food on the table. If you've got kids, if you've just been married, or you've just moved in with your significant other, whatever it is, especially if you are the breadwinner and no signs, new person in the White House, bye-bye to your job. Now, you could disagree with me, but I know people who lost their jobs who work for the government. So you can disagree and you can say this is not happening. Like I said, do your research. It's facts. You may say, well, it doesn't impact you. Yeah, and I'm happy if it doesn't. But have a heart. There are people who are going through this emotional trauma, and it's heartbreaking. It's one thing when you see changes happening in a company you're working for, or a new company takes over your old company. And it might be coming, there's going to be changes. You start to see people going on interviews, looking for different jobs. These people didn't have that option. They didn't. I mean, you work in education. You don't think you're going to lose your job when you've been getting rave reviews. I just saw a woman who was Teacher of the Year. And because she works technically for the department, under the Department of Education, her job's gone. Like that. What I want you to do, no matter which side you are on, no matter whether you love the guy in the White House or you fucking can't stand him, I want you to look at the people around you. I want you to have empathy. I want you to see that there are people struggling. It doesn't mean that the person that you stand with, that you believe in the President of the United States, that he's a bad guy. But decisions and changes are affecting people's lives. And you can still stand behind your president, but doesn't mean you can't support those people who are struggling. I want you and I encourage you. We have become very single focused here in the United States. It's based on who you voted for. And it's a sickness. in my opinion. It doesn't matter who you voted for. We're all still people. We all have feelings. We have families to support. And it doesn't matter whether it's President Trump or former President Joe Biden. If you lost your job under them because of something they did, have compassion for that person. It doesn't matter who you voted for. Have compassion to understand that not every decision people in government make are the right decisions. And not every decision will impact you in a positive way. Now, what we're going through in the United States may just be a transitional thing with, a new person in office, making changes. Who knows? Maybe we'll come out of it on the upside because nobody's ever really done what he's doing. So there really isn't a lot of data to show what the impact of the tariffs and, shaving away all these jobs at different parts in the government and closing, different departments. Completely, the department, USAID, gone. You worked for it, you're gone. Like, maybe there will be something in time that will enhance the United States of America. Maybe different jobs will, maybe, I don't know. I don't care right now, to be honest. I care about the people who are suffering and struggling. And the people who were let go may have very well voted for the person who is currently in office. And so for them, it's even more confusing because your vote is such a powerful thing. And not every country has fair elections. Not every country gets to vote for who leads their government. And we do here in the United States. And it's a very, to explain it, it is a very big decision. I think most of Americans, especially in the past 20 years, really take it seriously. The young people really take it seriously who they vote for. It's your power. And when you use that power and vote for somebody, and then your life is being impacted in a negative way, it puts you on an emotional roller coaster. You feel guilty. Did I put myself in this position? Maybe I should have voted for the other person. Maybe I should have just not voted at all. I don't know. But there's a lot of guilt in those who are now struggling because of job loss and financial instability, who voted for that person and now are struggling. And so emotionally, they're in turmoil. They're becoming intolerant. I'm becoming intolerant because I, as a therapist, don't like to see people suffer. And a lot of people are suffering. And so, okay, I've had my rant. Are you fucktose intolerant? I bet you a lot more hands just went up. A lot more heads are nodding yes. Yes, you're fucktose intolerant. So what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm on this ride with all of you. This is something I've never had to address in my lifetime. None of my clients throughout the years, when I started even my 20s, had to deal with this. So I can't even say, well, I've dealt with clients who are struggling with this. This is all a new road. It's not the yellow brick road either. It is a red flaming road with uncertainty, many people getting burned, many people scared. So what wise wisdom can I give you? What therapeutic tools can I give you? Well, I said one in the beginning. Research what you read, research what you see, and research what you hear. Become an informed person. And you too, in the other countries that listen to me, you're all watching the United States. You're all laughing. Some of you may even be happy about the turmoil that's going on here. Because, well, most countries think that the United States thinks they're the best in the world. And you may be happy to see this turmoil going on. Or it may be affecting you. I have listeners in Russia and the Ukraine. A lot of listeners. I know what's happening in the United States is affecting you. I know, no matter which side you're on, I know it's affecting you. I have listeners in Israel and in the Gaza Strip who I know are watching what's happening in the United States. I know what the United States affects you. So don't tune me out just because you live somewhere else. Poland, places that I know are affected by what the United States does and says. And so this fucktose intolerance, when it comes to world order, impacts you as well. Now let's focus on how you can educate yourself more. I am working on figuring out now who I am politically. Maybe you're with me. I'm confused. I agree with some things on the right, and I agree with some things on the left, and then there's things I don't agree with at all. But then independents, I don't really agree with them either, so I'm feeling very lost when it comes to politics. And just fucktose intolerant with all of it. So I'm trying to educate myself. I'm trying to get involved in conversations when I hear them, to hear other people's perspectives. That's an area you can work on. Listen to other people. Don't fight. If their vision, their version, their perspective is different than yours, don't make it a fight. Don't make it an argument. Make it a discussion. Try to have them understand you, and you try to understand them. I believe this is the only way that we will all be able to move forward together. This is why when a dozen countries go into civil wars, because you've got these two sides that just can't come together. And guess what? It's not going to start up at Capitol Hill. Because up at Capitol Hill, they're all worried about their next election and getting elected. So it's up to us as the citizens to listen to the opposing side. Turn on that other news station that you might not like listening to. Maybe you've never listened to Fox. Maybe you've never listened to CNN. Go to News Nation. They're in the middle. They talk about both sides and both perspectives. Start to educate yourself. This is the only way that I believe we can handle how our government is working, how we can handle what is happening to ourselves in our lives. I believe that you will understand the struggles more of what people are going through who have lost their jobs, the fear of what the tariffs will do, the fear of the countries that are attached to us not being happy with us scares a lot of people. I think when you start to have a dialogue, a healthy dialogue, you'll begin to understand the other side a little more. You don't agree with them, but you understand them more. And this is how we can move forward emotionally in a healthy mental health way, dealing with this fucking chaos that is going on in the United States. And I am sorry. I stand behind my country and I love my country, but it's fucked up right now. And I'm going to be honest because I'm tired of being politically correct on my podcast and watching every word that I say and worried that if I say something, somebody's going to attack me. So on that note, a little interesting fact for you. My family, my great-grandparents, are from Ukraine. My husband's grandparents are from Ukraine. We know exactly where they're from. The point, the place, everything. So as an American, and everything that's being said and done about Ukraine and whatever, I support Ukraine. That's my heritage. This country is a melting pot of people whose ancestors came from all different places, and both sides of my family actually, in different levels, have come from Ukraine and Europe. And so I put a post up on TikTok. Part of it was because I wanted to stand with Ukraine because, well, that's just who I am. And I like to say what I believe and what I stand for. And that's okay if you don't stand for Ukraine. That's okay. I understand. We all have our own perspectives. And I am not the person who will see somebody's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook post, whatever, about saying something against Ukraine, let's say, and I go and comment and say something horrible. That's not who I am. I'm a mental health professional. Obviously, I'm not going to do that because everybody has feelings and everybody should respect each other. So I put up this post, part again to express my feelings, and the other part was, in my mind, I was being a little facetious. And so I was a fist and said, I stand with Ukraine. And it was the night that the United States president was going to address Congress. And I just put, I am not going to watch him tonight. Oh my God. Never in a million years did I expect what I got. Number one, I was completely bullied. Completely bullied. Thank God. Part of it was because I stand with Ukraine and I don't give a shit whether you do or you don't. That's my beliefs, and everybody has a right to their beliefs. But because I put that I wasn't going to watch him, I was bullied to no end. As a matter of fact, that was a week and a half ago that he spoke. I'm still being bullied. People are still seeing it, and they can't help themselves but comment. And I would say 2% of the comments, and that's probably being generous, were nice. We're supportive in the same way. But that's not who came out. That's not who took the time to sit there and comment. And they weren't just 1 or 2 word comments. And I was being bullied. And I'm not going to even repeat them to you because they're fucked up. And I didn't let it get to me. But what if I was fragile? What if I was somebody who am now a U.S. citizen, but I left Ukraine years ago when Russia first started on it? And my family members are dying. And I put that on there. And now you're bullying me and saying horrible things about me as a person. And again, it's what led me to this podcast because it was unbelievable. Truly, it was hundreds of comments. It was unbelievable. And I did kind of laugh a little bit. I found the light in it because I said to myself, I'm trying, it's so hard to build your TikToks, you all know. And I'm trying to get to 1,000 so I can have a TikTok shop with my things for my podcasts and other things that I recommend for mental health, etc. And so every time they comment, they're helping my algorithm. They may be calling me a fucking traitor, but they're helping my algorithm. And I'm like, guess what? Go the fuck ahead. Keep commenting. Call me names. Be a bully to me. Because you're helping me. You're helping me reach my goal. Makes you feel better. You're making me feel better because I don't care what you're saying to me. I really don't. You're really just showing to me how the fact that you couldn't help yourself. You couldn't just scroll past it and say, fuck her, and move on. You had to say something, and you had to be a bully, and you had to be disgusting. Just shows me how fucktose intolerant I really am. And I don't fucking care. I don't care that I've decided to use bad words on my podcast anymore. I don't care. Take me or leave me. Because nobody's being politically correct, so why should I? I'm going to speak my heart. This is my heart. I'm pissed. I'm pissed because I'm okay. But what if somebody who put that isn't okay? And people were saying those terrible things to them. How would it affect them? How would it affect them, really, and their mental health? And that's my message to you. No matter where you stand, no matter where you live in this world, politics is all of our lives now. It's affecting us financially, academically, in our family units. It's if you've got a child who has a disability, whatever it is, our worlds are being turned upside down. And the intolerance is so heavy and real. And I'm asking you to start to break the chain. I'm not putting you down. If you've made some of these comments to somebody, I get it. Sometimes we're like, didn't have our cup of coffee yet, and we're reading something, and we say something online because it's anonymous, so it's really easy to say nasty things anonymously. It's okay. You can make amends for that if you learn to evolve and grow. And I guarantee you, 1,000%, if you begin to let go of that anger, the anger for the people who don't agree with you, no matter where you stand politically, no matter where you live in this world, even if your countries are fighting each other. The more we open our hearts to listen, to hear, maybe not agree, but to understand, to be empathetic, your mental health will improve. 1,000%, I believe in this. And protect yourself. Maybe if you are that person who cannot handle the bullying and the comments, don't put a post up like that. I'm okay. It didn't, like I said, I laughed. They were helping my algorithm. So thank you very much. But don't put things that are controversial. If you stop it. If you stop and don't watch those things and you don't comment on those things, you'll see them less and less in your feed because your algorithm will change. And you'll start to see the rescue puppies, the things that you watch more, and you can eliminate that. If it's really affecting your mental health, you can manipulate your social media. You absolutely can manipulate what you watch on TV. And so I guarantee we're all trying to navigate this bullshit together. Listen, talk, don't yell, don't argue. Try to understand. I guarantee there will be some things that you have a common ground with. And when you can have that open conversation with loved ones, trying to navigate this new world, because I believe we're in a new world. And I'm sorry to say, part of it has to do with, a big part of it is what's going on in America. And unfortunately, we're going to all have to adapt and change. I'm kind of scared to go to Europe this summer because I'm afraid what other countries may think of us, because I don't consider myself in any of that stuff. I just look at people for people. The beauty that we all have our choice to vote for who we want to vote for and believe in who we want to believe in. And sometimes maybe we'll make a mistake with who we choose and vote for. And that's okay. We learn from it. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. That maybe you voted for someone who's in the White House right now, and then your whole family just got laid off, and you're like pissed that you voted for them. Don't be pissed. You made a conscientious choice. You believed what he said. You did not realize that it would impact you or your family that way. Understand it, absorb it, start to make goals, start to make tasks for yourself to move forward, maybe to help those people in your family or your friends. Don't be hard on yourself if you're struggling in that way. I know people who are struggling, who really believe in the president and are really torn because they believe in him. But now there's people in their lives who are suffering and struggling. And so, again, like I said, we're all navigating this new landscape, and it's really tough. And it's really hard. And I'm going to be bringing people on my podcast. I'm setting up some people. We're going to talk about this because if, again, the world around us, our environment is in chaos, then our life is not stable. Then our lives and the external factors are affecting our lives. We're not going to feel stable. And we as human beings have to figure out a way. We have to figure it out how to stabilize our internal bubble with the chaos that surrounds us. Part of it is cleaning up. Maybe there are people in your world who you just can't talk to, who become irate, who become violent when you say anything political. Maybe part of cleaning up your environment is moving them out of your environment. It's tough. You work with people that you have totally different views with. I love to use this example in my head, and I've never really talked about it out loud, but where my husband plays golf, many political differences. And I say to him, and this was even before the past election, like, how do you golf with those people? Because they talk politics. And he says, I'm there to play golf. I'm there to have a good time playing golf. It's his passion. And I listen or I don't. And I know the ones that I can have a nice discussion about. And I listen to them and they listen to me. And that, I think, is the key. I think he's mastered that. I think he's mastered what I'm trying to talk about here, is that we can coexist. We can still be empathetic to something that somebody is going on with them that might have been caused by the person you voted for. We can be empathetic for them, but still believe in the person you voted for. And I think somewhere in this mess, that's all gotten lost. It's all gotten lost. The human factor, the care, the concern, it's just become vitriol. And I saw that on my TikTok post. The vitriol. Just because I said I wasn't going to watch. Imagine if I said something else, like directly about him. What would have happened? Probably would have been even worse. Then I might have gotten nervous. But being a public figure, you put yourself out there. You have a voice, you want to use it. I have a voice and I want to use it. And well, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I'm going through this shit with you. This fucktose intolerance. The BS. The insidiousness of some people. The negative news. The people losing things in their lives. I'm going through it with you. And so we're going to learn together how to keep our bubble healthy. How to cope with this, fucked up world. Because it is. But that doesn't mean we can't live healthy. Doesn't mean we can't live happy. And it doesn't mean we can't be productive people in society, have good relationships and good jobs, and go to school and be educated and live out our dreams. It doesn't mean that can be taken away from us. And so we're going to learn together in the next 3.5 years and on, because who knows what it's going to be like. It's an unknown landscape. How we can all cope together. Democrat, Republican, Independent. We're all people who just want to be happy. Love our loved ones, grow our families, be successful, go and see things and do things that we want to. That's all we want. So let's do that together. Let's put our political natures aside. Let the government handle it. Speak up when you want to speak up, but don't let it affect your internal bubble, your world, the people in your world. If you do, ultimately, I believe you will crumble inside. You will begin to become dysfunctional. You will lose people in your life. You will not feel happy. You will feel sad. So you have a choice today. Move on with me. Listen to me every week. Let's figure this shit out together. Because I think we all have a bright future ahead. And I'm going to keep that in my mind. Don't be a bully. Be a helper. Be a lover. Understand and listen. And you can express your opposing point of view without calling somebody a traitor or saying you want to stick your fist up their ass. There's better ways to express your differences. And that's my challenge to you today. So inhale, exhale, and let that fucking shit go. Thank you for joining me at Wide Open Spaces with Elise. Remember, positive thoughts always create positive energy. Go out and explore all those wide open spaces in your world. Please go to my social media, hit the love button, follow, leave me comments, constructive comments, please. And let's go on this journey together where we listen and we talk and we evolve together. And until next week, my friends, ciao.